Have you ever noticed how chaos doesn't arrive all at once? It starts quietly. A small disruption, a delay, an unexpected message, a problem that wasn't in your plans. At first, you tell yourself it's fine. You can handle it. You've handled worse. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, your breathing changes. Your thoughts speed up. Your patience shortens. And before you realize it, your inner world is no longer calm. It's reactive. This is how most people lose stability. Not because they are weak, not because they lack intelligence, but because no one ever taught them how to remain centered when everything around them refuses to cooperate. Modern life rewards reaction, not stability. It trains your nervous system to stay alert, tense and defensive. Notifications pull your attention. Deadlines compress time. Expectations pile up. And somewhere along the way, your mind forgets how to rest in clarity. The Japanese understood something crucial that we have largely forgotten. Chaos is not the enemy. Instability is. Chaos is external. Instability is internal. And the two are not the same. Centuries ago, Japanese warriors, monks and craftsmen lived in conditions that were anything but predictable. Wars, natural disasters, scarcity, sudden loss, chaos was part of daily existence. Yet they cultivated an inner state so grounded that even in uncertainty, their decisions remained clear. They followed a rule so simple that modern minds often dismiss it, Bushido, and yet so powerful that it can stabilize you in moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. But before we name that rule, you need to understand why chaos affects the mind the way it does. Your brain is not designed for constant uncertainty. From an evolutionary standpoint, unpredictability signals danger. When outcomes are unclear, the brain shifts into survival mode. It narrows perception. It accelerates thought. It prepares for threat. This response once kept humans alive, but today it often keeps them anxious. In chaos, the mind tries to regain control by doing what it knows best, thinking more. It replays conversations. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It overanalyzes decisions that haven't even been made yet. But thinking faster does not equal thinking better. In fact, excessive mental movement is one of the primary reasons people collapse under pressure. They mistake mental noise for mental control. The Japanese had a word for this scattered state. A mind that jumps, resists and grasps at certainty. And they believed that a mind like this cannot see reality clearly, no matter how intelligent the person may be. So, instead of trying to eliminate chaos, they focused on something far more practical: maintaining inner stillness regardless of conditions. This is where the rule begins to emerge. In Japanese philosophy, stability does not mean emotional numbness or suppression. It means alignment. It means staying rooted in the present moment, even when emotions arise. Think of a tree during a storm. The wind does not disappear. The rain does not stop. The thunder does not ask permission. Yet the tree remains standing, not because it fights the storm, but because its roots are deep. Most people try to control chaos by tightening their grip on life. They tense their bodies. They force outcomes. They demand certainty where none exists. And this tension becomes the very thing that breaks them. The Japanese approach is the opposite. They taught that when chaos increases, your movements must become smaller, not larger. Your breath slower, not faster. Your attention narrower, not scattered. This is not passivity, it is precision. A calm mind does not mean a slow life, it means a clear one. And clarity is power. When your mind is stable, you respond instead of react. You choose instead of panic. You act with intention instead of impulse. This is why those who appear calm under pressure often seem almost intimidating. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are unshaken. This is the foundation of the Japanese rule that keeps you stable in chaos. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Stability feels unnatural at first. When you are used to tension, calm can feel like vulnerability. When you are used to reacting, stillness can feel like inaction. When you are used to noise, silence can feel unsettling. This is why most people abandon stability the moment chaos appears. They mistake calm for weakness and urgency for strength. The Japanese knew better. They understood that the person who can remain composed while others lose control gains an invisible advantage, not just externally, but internally, where decisions are formed and futures are shaped. In the next part, we will name the Japanese rule itself and break down how it works at a psychological level, why it stabilizes the mind, slows emotional spirals, and creates a sense of grounded control even when circumstances are unpredictable. For now, sit with this question. When chaos enters your life, do you tighten or do you root yourself deeper? The Japanese rule that keeps the mind stable in chaos can be translated into a simple idea. Remain unmoved, even while everything moves. In Japanese thought, this principle is often described as fudoshin, the immovable mind. But this does not mean a frozen mind. It does not mean emotional repression. And it certainly does not mean indifference. An unmoved mind is a centered mind. It is a mind that feels emotion without being carried away by it. A mind that observes pressure without surrendering to panic. A mind that stays present while others are mentally pulled into fear, anger, or urgency. This rule was not created for comfort. It was created for survival. Samurai trained under extreme conditions where hesitation could cost lives. Yet they were taught that reacting emotionally was more dangerous than reacting slowly. A rushed decision made from fear was considered more lethal than a delayed decision made from clarity. So, how did they remain unmoved in moments when everything screamed for reaction? They trained the mind to anchor itself in what does not change. Chaos is movement. Emotion is movement. Circumstances are movement. But awareness is still. The unmoved mind rests in awareness, not in the storm of thoughts. When chaos hits your life, your first impulse is usually to mentally chase it. You try to solve everything at once. You mentally jump into the future. You imagine outcomes. You replay mistakes. This creates the illusion of control, but it actually fragments your energy. The Japanese rule demands the opposite. When pressure increases, you narrow your focus instead of expanding it. Instead of asking, "How do I fix everything?" you ask, "What is the next grounded action?" Instead of thinking 10 steps ahead, you return to one stable point. This is where the body becomes essential. Japanese discipline never separated the mind from the body. They understood that instability in thought often begins as instability in posture, breath, and physical tension. That is why stillness starts physically before it becomes mental. When chaos arrives, the rule is simple but demanding. Lower your breath, soften your jaw, relax your shoulders, ground your feet. These are not small details. They are switches for your nervous system. A shallow breath tells the brain, danger is near. A slow breath tells the brain, I am safe enough to think. Most people try to calm their thoughts directly. That rarely works. Thoughts follow the body. When the body slows, the mind follows. This is why the unmoved mind is trained, not wished for. Another core aspect of this rule is non-resistance. Resistance amplifies chaos. When you internally argue with reality, this shouldn't be happening. I can't deal with this. This is unfair. You double the emotional load. One part of you is dealing with the situation. Another part is fighting the fact that the situation exists. The Japanese approach removes that second battle. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means clarity. The moment you stop resisting what is happening, your energy becomes available for intelligent action instead of emotional friction. This is why calm people often seem faster and more decisive. They are not wasting energy on inner conflict. An unmoved mind does not rush to fix emotions. It allows emotions to pass without giving them authority. Anger arises, observed. Fear arises, observed. Anxiety arises, observed. Observation creates distance. Distance creates choice. Without this distance, emotions become commands. This rule also explains why silence is so valued in Japanese culture. Silence is not emptiness. It is a container for clarity. In silence, unnecessary mental movement dies down, and what remains is perception. When you are stable inside, chaos loses its power to hijack you. And here is the paradox most people don't expect. The unmoved mind is not passive. It is highly responsive, because when you are not internally shaken, you see what others miss. You notice patterns. You hear what is not being said. You sense timing. This is why the Japanese believed that true strength is quiet. Noise signals insecurity. Urgency signals fear. Stillness signals mastery. But mastery requires discipline. You cannot expect to access this state only when chaos appears. The mind will default to its strongest habit. If your habit is reaction, reaction will appear. If your habit is grounding, grounding will appear. That is why the Japanese rule was practiced daily. In walking, in cleaning, in breathing, in simple repetitive actions. Stability was built in calm moments, so it would remain available in difficult ones. In the next part, we will explore how to train this rule in daily life, how to create mental stability before chaos arrives, and how small, repeatable practices rewire your response to pressure permanently. For now, reflect on this. When chaos enters your life, where does your attention go? Outward to the storm, or inward to the ground beneath your feet? The Japanese never waited for chaos to test their stability. They trained for it long before it arrived. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of mental strength. Most people believe calm is something you access when things go wrong. In reality, calm is something you build when things are quiet. When pressure hits, your mind does not rise to the level of your intentions. It falls to the level of your training. The Japanese rule of remaining unmoved was embedded into daily life through small, disciplined actions, not dramatic rituals, not complex techniques, simple practices that taught the nervous system one lesson over and over again: stillness is safe. One of the most powerful training tools was repetition. In Japanese culture, repetition is not boredom. It is refinement. cleaning the same space every day, walking the same path with awareness, performing the same movement with precision. These actions trained the mind to stay present instead of seeking stimulation. Presence became familiar. Familiarity reduced anxiety. And over time, the mind learned not to panic when stimulation disappeared. Modern life does the opposite. It conditions you to constant novelty, endless input, rapid switching, fragmented attention. This makes the mind fragile. When novelty stops or uncertainty appears, the mind feels lost. Training stability means intentionally slowing the mind in small doses every day. One of the simplest ways to do this is through what the Japanese would call one-pointed attention. Choose one action. Do it fully, without multitasking, without rushing. It could be drinking tea, it could be walking, it could be writing a single paragraph. The content of the action doesn't matter. The quality of attention does. When your attention is unified, your nervous system stabilizes. Scattered attention creates internal noise. Unified attention creates internal order. Another essential practice is controlled discomfort. The Japanese understood that avoiding discomfort weakens the mind. Stability grows when you learn that discomfort does not equal danger. Simple forms of controlled discomfort include sitting in silence without stimulation, holding a posture slightly longer than comfortable, pausing before reacting emotionally. Each time you remain still in mild discomfort, you teach the brain a critical lesson. I can stay grounded even when I don't, like how this feels. This rewires your relationship with chaos. Instead of seeing it as a threat, you begin to experience it as information. Breath training is another cornerstone. In moments of stress, most people lose control of their breathing without noticing. The Japanese placed enormous importance on breath because it is the fastest bridge between the body and the mind. A simple rule they followed: longer exhale than inhale. A longer exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calm, digestion, and clarity. You don't need complex techniques. Inhale slowly. Exhale slightly longer. Repeat. This alone can interrupt emotional spirals before they gain momentum. Posture also matters more than most people realize. An unstable posture sends a message of instability to the brain. Slouched shoulders, collapsed chest, and a lowered head signal defeat and threat. The Japanese trained upright posture not for appearance, but for psychological alignment. A grounded posture communicates to the nervous system: I am present. I am capable. I am not collapsing. Even in chaos, posture can keep you centered. Another daily practice was delayed reaction. Not everything requires an immediate response. In fact, most emotional damage comes from responding too quickly. The Japanese rule encourages a pause, a breath before speaking, a moment of silence before deciding, a delay before reacting. That pause is where stability lives. When you pause, you interrupt automatic patterns. You regain authorship over your response. And over time, this pause becomes natural. One of the most powerful shifts that happens through this training is identity change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to stay calm and start seeing yourself as someone who is stable by nature. This identity matters. When chaos arrives, you don't ask, how do I calm down? You think, I remain grounded. This is what I do. Stability becomes who you are, not something you chase. This is why the Japanese rule is so effective. It does not rely on motivation. It relies on systems, and systems outperform emotions every time. In the final part, we will explore what changes when you live from this rule, how stability in chaos transforms your decisions, your relationships, and the way others perceive your presence. For now, ask yourself, what would change in your life if chaos no longer shook you, but sharpened you instead? When you truly embody the Japanese rule of remaining unmoved, something subtle yet powerful begins to change. Chaos no longer feels like an enemy. Pressure no longer feels personal. Uncertainty no longer feels paralyzing. Instead, chaos becomes a signal that others will rush, a signal that emotions will rise, a signal that most minds will lose their center. And in that moment, your calm becomes an advantage. This is why people who remain stable in chaos often appear unusually confident, even intimidating. Not because they dominate others, but because they cannot be easily controlled by circumstances. When you are internally steady, your decisions slow down just enough to become precise. You stop reacting to noise and start responding to reality. This changes everything. Your words carry more weight because they are not rushed. Your presence feels grounded because it is not seeking approval. Your actions feel deliberate because they are not driven by panic. Others may not consciously understand why they trust your judgment, but they feel it. Stability communicates safety. In relationships, this rule transforms conflict. Most arguments escalate not because of disagreement, but because of emotional instability. One reaction triggers another. Tension multiplies, meaning is lost. An unmoved mind breaks this cycle. When you remain calm while emotions rise, you stop feeding the fire. You listen more clearly. You speak less impulsively. And often, the other person begins to mirror your composure. Calm becomes contagious. This does not mean you avoid confrontation. It means you confront without chaos inside you. In work and decision-making, stability creates clarity. Under pressure, most people either rush or freeze. Both are forms of instability. The unmoved mind does neither. It evaluates, it prioritizes, it chooses the next grounded action. This is why leaders who stay calm in crisis are remembered long after those who are loud or aggressive. Noise fades. Stability endures. The Japanese understood that mental strength is not about overpowering life, but about staying aligned within it. They believed that a stable mind cannot be manipulated because it does not depend on external validation or certainty. When you no longer need everything to go your way, to remain grounded, you become free. Free from emotional whiplash. Free from constant mental tension. Free from the fear of uncertainty. And freedom is the foundation of true confidence. This rule also reshapes your relationship with failure. When chaos no longer destabilizes you, failure loses its emotional sting. It becomes information, not identity. You learn faster, you recover quicker, you adapt without collapsing. This is resilience, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, durable kind. The kind that lasts. Over time, people begin to notice something different about you. You speak less, but with more intention. You react slower, but with better outcomes. You remain composed when others lose control. And without trying, you become someone others look to when things fall apart. This is the paradox of the unmoved mind. By not chasing control, you gain it. By not resisting chaos, you master it. By not forcing calm, you embody it. The Japanese rule that keeps you stable in chaos is not a technique you use occasionally. It is a way of being you return to again and again. It begins with awareness. It deepens through practice. And eventually it becomes automatic. Chaos will never disappear from life, but instability can. And the moment you understand this, you stop trying to outrun the storm and learn how to stand firmly within it. So the next time everything around you starts to move too fast, remember this: you do not need to move with it. You only need to remain rooted. That is where real strength lives.